reporting on the games you love by people who love to game. The MMO Reporter Network. You're listening to LOTRO Reporter on the MMO Reporter Network, brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download at audibletrial.com/MMO Reporter. And by Doghouse Systems. Choose your weapon at doghousesystems.com.
Hello everybody, welcome to LOTRO Reporter episode 225. I am Layanor, the only rank 13 host ever. And Cari's not with us this week because it's her birthday and she's drunk at an Irish pub somewhere.
You have proof of this?
I'm hoping for pictures. The voice that you hear is Braxwolf. Braxwolf, say hi.
Hi.
And we also have Rorgg.
It's Rorgg. It's 5 letters. It's not that hard.
Okay. For our listeners who don't know who you guys are, Braxwolf, why don't you start and explain who you be?
Sure. I've been playing LOTRO for about 3 years and maybe 3.5 by this time. And about, 8 months ago, I started contributing to a little LOTRO fan site called LOTRO Players. Mm-hmm. And it started out as kind of a every now and then throw a one-page piece of fan fiction out there, and it kind of turned into, okay, do a couple hunter guides here and there, and then it morphed into being on LOTRO Players News, which is the podcast that they do every week. And now I'm kind of doing that in conjunction with throwing kind of opinion pieces out there every once in a while. And when there's a major piece of news that takes kind of a I don't know how to say it, maybe just Andang wants my slant on something, I'll get assigned something like the one of my big ones was when Turbine decided to charge for the epic story this time around. Mm-hmm. He gave me that one to work on, and I struggled through it. So been working on that through LOTRO Players. I also have my own independent gaming site blog called Braxwolf. That's my name.
Convenient.
Braxwolf.com is where it's at. I just bought the domain name, so now I don't even have the little WordPress in the middle anymore. You don't even have to remember that part. And along with that, basically what I write there is anything that doesn't have to do with LOTRO. I've done some first impression posts like for WildStar and Elder Scrolls Online. I've done a couple pieces on some things that interest me, like ethics in gaming and things like that. So if you're interested in that type of angle and are, you're not looking for something like what I played this week or what outfits is my character wearing, head on over to Braxwolf.com and there's some kind of off-the-wall stuff over there. Along with that, I do a podcast on my own called Beyond Boss Fights, and it comes out every month, which is kind of similar to the blog. I pick a topic for every episode and go through it in some depth with a guest every month. And so that's one of the things that takes a lot of my time, and that's one of the reasons I do it monthly, because it takes quite a bit of time. And with the busy life that I lead, I can't do it any more often than that. So that's about it. I think that's pretty much all I do. And every once in a while I'll play LOTRO.
Oh, well, I got a question for you. Are you still doing the podcast with your two sons?
That's an excellent question. Yeah, that's actually a YouTube thing, and I plan to do more of that. It's called the Brax Clan. Mm-hmm. And like Layanor said, it was basically me doing some playthroughs with one of my two older boys, and kind of explaining the game to them as we go along. And every once in a while, they'll explain something to me too. There's been some, let's say, electronics groundings at my house here recently. So makes it a little bit difficult to record with the boys when they're not allowed to use the computer. But yeah, we're planning on getting back in that. And the other, I guess, challenge with scheduling my boys to record is that they're into so many other games as well. Like Minecraft has been like a major time suck for them when they're actually able to play. So getting them off of that and onto Lotro sometimes is more of a challenge, especially when the only real time we have to record is on the weekends. But I would like to get back to that as soon as we can. It's a lot of fun for me.
Yeah, that was pretty cool when I first heard that you were doing that, and I was like, yeah, keep doing that. So it'd be very cool to hear or to see a new one. Rorgg, tell us who you are, please.
Well, I'm Rorgg. Although
hold on. Let me practice. Rorgg.
Yes, Layanor. That's right. Okay.
I'll make it wrong next time.
Although the name has an incredibly geeky history, so it really doesn't deserve that much respect. I got into MMOs in 1999 in EverQuest with a group through a guy I knew through Magic the Gathering to further bolster geeky cred. And that guild, EQ Guild, is still around in message board format, and has since that time has just jumped from game to game to game. And we had a contingent that came on to LOTRO when LOTRO started, and I was there at launch, and then went away for a little while, and came back, and then went away for a little while, and finally came back about 2.5 years ago, and I've been on since. We were playing on the Landerval server, and with Helm's Deep, people didn't really come back so much. So after I finished leveling all of my characters to 95, started looking for something else to do. And after listening to Reporter for so long, decided to follow you guys over here and give the proof is the pudding of my leveling guide that you ran months ago.
Yeah, the leveling guide was last year that we put out I put out as a Did You Know? And we had some really good people respond to that guide, and that ended up turning into me making a power leveling guide later on.
Yes, which we actually put to good use when I created a character on Brandywine to join.
Oh yeah.
And and so now I've got I transferred one more character over, so I've got 2 95s on Brandywine and 8 on Landerval, and that's about it. In my daytime job, I'm a Unix geek, and off hours I'm very involved with local theater. And that's about me.
That's about you. Okay, well I have to ask because earlier in I think yesterday you told me, I think you said 20 years ago you were in radio?
Yes, I did some college radio back in the early 90s.
Oh, so you played a lot of REM and Violent Femmes.
Actually, I did like news and political discussion shows, hotbeds of student activism.
Gotcha.
But then after that, I got hooked up with some low-budget commercial radio that was recorded. I was living in LA at the time. Recorded there, but then shipped off to small markets as recorded radio content. So yeah, I did some radio work.
Okay. So you're in theater right now. So what plays or what are you working on in theater right now?
The thing I got coming up is I'm actually directing Brighton Beach Memoirs, played by Neil Simon, in Elgin, Illinois, coming up in June. But I have auditions in a couple weeks.
Oh, auditions. There you go, Brax.
What is that supposed to mean?
Come on, drive up 2.5 hours and come audition for me, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay.
Time to take that next step.
I didn't know plays were the next step after podcasting. I didn't see that list.
Okay. Well, I guess we're gonna go into what we did in game this week, and I moved and did absolutely nothing.
Congratulations.
So that happened. Brax, what did you do this week?
I didn't do a whole lot either, but I did a couple things. First of all, my lore master on Winfola is now level 92, working his way through the Helm's Deep content and kind of stuck in the lulls of the Broadacres. So I kind of left him alone for a little while because I got tired of looking for mobs that aren't there on some of those Slayer quests.
Are you on multiple servers too?
I mostly Winfola. I do a couple things on Land Revolt.
Okay.
That's pretty much it. The other thing I did was my captain is sitting at 95, and he's working his way through the end of the epic in Helm's Deep, and he's got a couple epic battles to go. He just finished his second one, which I think is the Deeping Wall, and kind of slopped his way through that, and finally got the bronze so that he could continue on. But it's hard for me to jump on and do those because they do seem to take quite a bit of time. So he's going pretty slow too. That'll be my third tune in the 90s on Winfola. So the Hunter, the Captain, and the Lore Master are my three main classes that I've been playing the most. The only other thing I did was last Saturday on LOTRO Players Adventures. I don't know if you guys have heard of this. This is kind of a cool thing that LOTRO Players is doing. We're doing this 1 hour every week PvE show where we stream live on YouTube. I believe it's at 5 o'clock server time on Saturdays. And I was at the first one, and then I was at this one. I haven't been able to make very many because Saturday afternoon is a really tough time for me to actually get on and play. But when I got on this week, I was so impressed. All we were doing when I got on was basically just ripping through the troll shaws and killing things. And this was after I think they've actually did some skirmishes and things, but I got on late. But we must have had a full raid by the time I got on there. This thing is just really kind of picking up steam. We're at level 35, 36, 37, right around the 40 level range right now. So there's a lot of people that are on Land Revolt. It's an open group. So basically, if you want to come and play with us at 5 p.m. on Saturday, you can get on Land Revolt. If you got a tune in that range, just send a tell to somebody on the LOTRO Players staff. I think we've got Ethelros plays, and Draculetta I know is always on. Lillicate sometimes is there, and Andang plays his lore master called Staff Dang. Send one of us a tell, and we'll get you in the group. And it's just kind of...
I had no clue.
Yeah. Well, it's... I didn't know how big it had gotten because like I said, I made the first one where it was mostly just LOTRO Player staff, and then a couple other people came in. But now that it's kind of been going for about 8 or 9 episodes, people are starting to jump in and just have a good time for an hour while we're actually sitting there recording a show and doing this, what we did last week type of stuff. So if you want to get in on that, it's actually kind of fun. I mean, we usually have some kind of organized plan to begin with, but then if we run out of stuff, we'll just start slaying things wherever we're at.
Hey, I happen to have a 37 champion on Land Revolt, so there we go.
Perfect. We'll see you Saturday.
Okay.
I still can't get over that name, Staff Dang.
Yeah, well, we can't all be Braxwood, I guess.
Braxicon, the Braxinator.
I have a lot of names.
Rorgg.
Yes.
What did you do this week?
Well, I finished gearing up my champ on Brandywine, the one we're planning on using for the 3-man adventures.
Yes. Real quick, if people didn't already figure it out, this is the third man that we're going to be bringing into the 3-man instance runs that we're going to be doing.
Yeah, on the off chance that first stage symbols, or at least something worth buying, will be eventually buyable, I figured I should do hard content. Well, it's still easy and ran a whole lot of scrades, so I got about 375 marks right now. And then I got to a point where my guys on Brandywine didn't have a whole lot of stuff to do. I was thinking about I did some extra deeds in the Helm's Deep area to work up supply of task turn-ins just for the heck of it.
Mhm.
Kind of completionist stuff there, and for the new rewards that'll come in U13, but they're changing the turbine point rewards to, I've heard, runes and or loot boxes appropriate for the level. So it sounded good to do some extra ones of those.
Mhm.
And the rest of the time I spent back on Landerval. I actually got my third character over there through all the Helm's Deep content. Captain Minstrel, now a Warden. The other five characters they over there are they're 95, but they hit it well, like in the Broadacres. So there's still a lot to do after that point. And yeah, it doesn't sound particularly appealing to slug through the Broadacres looking for the right kind of goat to kill. But I got all that done.
So, what are the ranks of all your characters in the Ettenmoors?
In the Moors, well, I've got the level 1 we got when you gave me a bunch of turn-ins.
Yeah, when I made you go out there.
Yeah, and then we killed one guy, and then that one guy kicked me over to rank 1. And on Landerval, I took my captain out for about 2 or 3 sessions and got all the way to rank 1. Everybody else is rank 0.
All right. So you have been out in the moors.
Enough to kind
We
of...
need to get you out there more. Okay, so he's gonna choke me after. So what I wanted to do today with this show is to do things a little bit different. Not really touch on news so much, but to actually have a conversation about LOTRO, and just kind of change things up a little bit. And having Braxwolf on is a great opportunity because he does pick some very good topics to talk about. So Brax, why don't you take it from there?
Sure, yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity. Layanor came to me and said, hey, could you do like a little section of what you do on your podcast on our LOTRO Reporter show? And of course, that sounded like an awesome thing for me to do. So I'm going to have I'm going to call this, so my podcast is called Beyond Boss Fights. I'm going to call this the mini boss fight because it's going to be kind of a smaller version of what I do usually on that podcast. We're going to try and not take up the entire show, but kind of an interesting topic tonight. A couple blog posts kind of got me thinking about it. I'm actually going to flip them from the show notes, but the first one is John Smedley posted a blog a few months ago talking about providing content for players versus providing a sandbox type environment for players. And basically what the position he's taken, I'll just go ahead and read it. He says, over the years, the quality has really been steadily rising to the point where we have some brilliant narrative and exciting storylines in many MMOs today. We still thrill at completing a quest to kill the dragon or save some poor townsperson who was unlucky enough to get kidnapped by orcs. The real issue is a simple one. Our ability to consume that content as players has gotten to the point that most content is done by the players nearly immediately after it's released. The thing that is tough as a game maker is that players are going through the content we make so much faster than we can make it that we're constantly in a state where our players are looking for stuff to do. And that was from a blog post called the Sandbox MMO by John Smedley. And so he's talking about, and we see that all the time, where an MMO takes 2 years to develop, and within the first 30 days that it opens, people have already burned through the entirety of the game, level 50, level 65, whatever it is. The second thing that I found interesting was a post that Brianna Royce over at Massively did talking about endgame. And she had a post that was called "Endgame is the worst thing that ever happened to MMOs." And what she said was, if your game doesn't start until the end, why do you even bother designing anything else? The people who realize your early game is a weakly designed time sink will leave. The people who prefer that first third will be disappointed that the game at the end is not what you trained them to like, and they'll leave. People who like alts and mid gaming will be annoyed that most of the coolest stuff is too distant for them and they'll leave. And worse, the rushers will see right through your replayable content and still leave. So her position is that really the sandbox MMO is the way to go. Don't even design in-game content. Now, the reason that I thought these were both very interesting viewpoints is because as somebody who's been following LOTRO for a few years, and especially very closely since Helm's Deep dropped, one of the chief complaints we always hear from players is that with Helm's Deep, there is no real good end-game content. And we hear about people threatening to leave. We hear about raiding kinships disbanding. And so my thought was, well, which is it? Is the end game what holds the game together? Or is the end game what's ruining MMOs today? So I guess I'll pose this question to you two first of all. Do you think that as of today, LOTRO suffers from lack of the end game?
I don't think it's so much lack of the end game. I think it's just that the end game that they're proffering to us, running the big battles over and over and over again, is just kind of weak. Not a big fan of the big battle system, especially to get started with it.
And what is it about epic battles that doesn't appeal to you?
Well, like I said, the starting process is the big part of it. And I had to go through that this week when I was finishing up the Helm's Deep content. Is, when you're rank 0, rank 1, even up to rank 2, there's just not a lot you can do, and it makes it unpleasant. 1, unpleasant, and 2, difficult to gain the points you need to bootstrap yourself up.
Mm-hmm.
I got really fortunate in that a rank 5 it had nothing to do, decided to do it with me for the first 4, and so that at least made the content passable. But even then, I had to go in and do the final one, do the Hornburg, as a rank 2, and barely passed that. And it was just barely pleasant with only having a few things that you can do.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. When I first started going through them in the beginning, died everywhere, failed every quest. I thought it was just the worst thing ever that they put into the game. And later on, like I think it was about a month, I didn't even touch them. But after people were saying, oh, they're not too bad after you start going through them and start getting points, then I started jumping in and getting some of the stuff, and then it wasn't too bad. But yeah, I totally agree. It's just running those over and over and over again. But I can't totally agree with Rorgg. Rorgg. I actually enjoy running all of the endgame scaled instances. I found that a lot of the gear is pretty useful. There's shields that you can get. There's helmets and stuff that you can get that, for my warden, were really good tanking pieces. And they might not be comparable to set bonuses, but those set bonuses are random that you get from the Helm's Deep content. If you go out and you go over to these scaled instances, you can get a lot of really good stuff that you need. The unfortunate thing is you need to get the entire huge list of gear, go through all of it, and find the ones that you want, and then hope that there are people that are running that instance. So I'm pretty happy with the end game content. I think there's quite a bit of it, but I don't think the rewards are very rewarding. They need to be better and more comparable to at least the epic battle gear stuff.
Well, the epic battle gear is only jewelry, but I think the bigger problem right now is that a lot of that in-game content is just too easy. Mm-hmm. There's no problem running tier 3 scrades and just kind of face rolling your way through.
Yeah, that's true. Brandywine, I know for sure, we're going through tier 3s like nothing. There are some challenging things still. The Erebor stuff. A lot of people still have not gotten tier 2 on Brandywine yet. I can't remember which one it is. The one with the 2 trolls.
Battle for Erebor.
Yes.
Yes. Things that require a lot of group coordination can be tricky. But that's really about it. But the Erebor stuff, which would be great, there's what's really your reward for running a Type 2 or Tier 2 challenge? The big rewards for that were in opening gear sets that you don't need anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And you basically get a deed for it, and that's about it.
So is it lack of motivation because of the lack of gear at endgame that's the big problem, or is it just that the endgame stuff that they come up with really isn't any fun?
I think the bigger problem is that the content right now is either too easy or repetitive in the case of the big battles. In general, there are a few exceptions, but some of the most notable exceptions don't have good gear rewards.
Yeah. I find just about all of them fun. Even if they are easy, just grabbing random people and just running through some of that stuff is a lot of fun for me. The gear, on the other hand, it makes it almost impossible to get groups together because people just don't want to run it when there's not that many, good pieces of gear. And even if there is good gear, it's scattered throughout all of these instances, and it's really hard to find a group to go out and get that stuff.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I've noticed that folks in my kinship have stopped logging in as often ever since Helm's Deep dropped, and I think it has something to do with the end game, though I don't really have any proof of that. Most of them are 95s, though, so that leads me to believe that they just don't feel like there's as much to do. I mean, before that, we were tearing through the school and library, 2-3 times a week just for the heck of it, and
Right.
there are some decent rewards there too. But after you get a few of those, you're kind of done with that. But it was just kind of fun to do, and anymore, like you said, it's so easy that it's difficult to even justify logging in.
There are a lot of people that feel that the PvP is the end game. And that's why on Brandywine we've been seeing such a huge influx of people. We have so many people that have the little 1 right after their name because they're transfers. I mean, it's just insane out there right now. And it seems like since the game isn't really a PvP based game, that the people that are not interested in PvP are leaving because they have gone through all the content. There isn't that many, good pieces of gear, and those people will probably end up coming back if something was added and something was changed. So what it is, I don't know exactly, but I think that that's basically what we're doing right now.
So to move on to the next point here, I think a lot of the people that we see that kind of hang with the game, especially of LOTRO, are the ones that enjoy the sandbox type content, the music system, the fact that they're just role playing in Middle Earth, the type of stuff where Turbine has developed a world that players can go and use however they see fit. Do you think that we could solve the problem that we currently see with players leaving with more sandbox type content, or do we have to have that end game for people like raiders and PvPers?
Well, that's not going to satisfy the raiders and PvPers. I mean, it's good for those who enjoy that kind of thing will find it the kind of thing they enjoy.
So perhaps a better question, and maybe a more controversial one, is Turbine trying to be too many things to too many people at this point with LOTRO?
I would say no. It's kind of hard to explain. Over the last couple of years, they have been putting out interviews with different different sites like Massively and other sites. And they had said that the raid content was no longer a major focus. When Geltrev came out, they were really proud about Geltrev. the rebuilding of Geltrov and coming back and doing these quests over and over and over again. And they really wanted to focus on that. And then later on, I think it was about a year later, they said that that was actually very successful.
The height bolt, yeah.
Highbolt, thank you. So I think that they have been trying to slow down on raid content for quite a while, and I think that's why they're so simple now too, because they don't have to make huge EverQuest type areas. I think they said before, like CD, Cardoom, Urgarth, where you just walk in and you just see a massive city. They don't have to do that anymore because people just want to get in and get out within about half hour, an hour. I think that they feel that all they need to do is just put out some of that content and they're good. And I think their main focus is, and I think has always been since the beginning, is the story, because a lot of people do like the story and they really love to focus on recreating the world. People really love just being in Middle Earth. And I think I think that is the main goal. If it wasn't in the beginning, I think it is now. People really want to see Middle Earth made and be full. I was just thinking this the other day. If we had almost all of Middle Earth done and made, and we had Mount Doom, the whole area with Sauron behind the Black Gates and just locked for the next 2 or 3 years, I think people would be happy with that. The world is made, that Turbine can put in content, in all these little areas that they've already made, put some instance runs and stuff like that, here or there. And I think people would be happy with that. It's not going to make the hardcore raiders happy, of course. It's not going to make the solo questers that happy because they're just going to go through that content. What it's going to make the people that is going to make it make them happy is there are so many people that are like husband and wife teams, boyfriend and girlfriend teams. There's family teams, grandmothers and mothers and daughters and sons. There are so many families in this game that I haven't seen in any other game. And it's the community is very, very different on this game. So I think that they're trying to focus on that. And of course, impulse buys from the LOTRO store. I think that's their main goals.
So I think what I'm hearing you say, I want to paraphrase, but I don't want to put words in your mouth, is that the complaints we're hearing are coming from a very vocal minority.
Yes. Are you referring to the rating population or?
Yes, and that's what Turbine has been saying when they've been asked these types of questions. And it's very difficult to gauge when you're a player on the outside watching the forums and watching some of the other conversations. But what Turbine has been saying is that, look, we know that there's some people that are going to be unhappy with these types of decisions that we're making, but statistically speaking, they are still a very small part of the player base.
Yes. Well, at least that's what Turbine says. When you're outside, like you said, looking in, you really can't tell. And you know what? When you're in the game too, you really can't tell either. If you're in a raiding can and you guys always raid, you don't know what everybody else is doing. There's no way to tell that. So if you're always raiding and you think that, everybody's raiding, then there should be more raiding content. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's very hard to judge, and you just kind of have to go with Turbine whenever they say something like that.
So I guess kind of the last question I wanted to bat around a little bit was with regards to, and we've already kind of led ourselves down this path of the game becoming more soloable, duoable, a little bit easier, a little bit more accessible. What is a viable piece of endgame for those types of players? Because we've had Heightbold, which is repeatable quests, and they're okay maybe for a while. I can tell you I'm not going to go back and do it again with another character. I rebuilt the thing one time, and that's enough work for me. we've had the repeatables, we've had the epic battles, and neither one of them has seemed to really live up to the stories we hear of the Rift and these old end game dungeons, or the PvMP that people seem to really enjoy too. So is there a suitable end game for soloists and people who play in very, very small groups, or are we always going to have to fall back on these instances and raids that people remember so fondly?
From my experience as a soloist, and I mean, I do almost all my leveling solo and then jump into groups at the end. I think it's already there. I took 9 characters through Hypevolt and completed it, just because I'm an intense achiever type of the MMO player archetypes.
That's way too many times.
That is.
That's way too many.
That's incredible.
Hold on. We're kicking him off the show.
And that's the thing that's kept me in LOTRO, is that there's so much to achieve. It's there in spades.
Mm-hmm.
And even like before Helm Steve came out, what I started doing was I would go between all of my characters and have each of them complete a deed every day. And I was in no danger of running out of anything.
So you set your own goals.
Yeah, and the game really caters to that. So I don't think you have to worry about the soloist duels. They're kind of covered.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. The game does kind of it does cater to you setting up your own goals as what you want to do. That's what's kept me in the game for so long. And I keep changing my goal. My last goal that I wanted to do was get to rank 13 so I could get first agers easier. It's kind of a workaround for avoiding all those really hard instances that I thought were really hard at the time. But now all the instances are easy and there are no first stagers. So I'm going for rank 14.
It was a good thought.
It was a good thought. I hope they put first stagers out there. Just saying, Turbine. But I I'm kind of getting off the topic here. Brax, just keep going. Keep going.
Well, we're getting pretty close to what I had prepared. So if you have something that you want to wrap up with, go ahead and throw it out there. And I hear nothing. So.
Well, I'll throw this out real quick. I think I might have mentioned it in a earlier show, but as a couple ideas, I wish that they would do is take a lot of the older, maybe even some of the epic story instances, and just kind of open them up and make them group contents. They're already made, and they could just kind of open them up to like 6-mans, like the old Fire and Ice instance from book 1.
Yeah.
Some of those, if they could just and then put some rewards in there or something like that, or a currency system where we can buy all of this really cool gear or something off of. I don't know. That would bring a lot of, maybe not a lot of people, but it would bring back some interest in some of these really old areas that are just kind of left to dry. Oh geez, I had this other thought too. Now I lost it. I would really like to see a lot of the older contents just made open and scalable and make the game feel a little bit more just more classic, like classic old LOTRO that I can run at max level.
Yeah, if they were to do that, I would hope that they would put it in the instance finder too, because I'm kind of tired of going to reflection pools.
Yes.
Trying to find those things.
I got my thought back. That's good. That's good. I'm not as old as I thought I was. If we can redo quests, now, not just over and over and over to gain experience from them, but you do them the first time to do, get the experience. And then have them open to do them whenever you want again. So you can do them with groups of people, role play with other people, and just get some sort of cash reward or just some skirmish marks or something out of it or whatever. But as a, as a group thing where you take a bunch of people and you say, okay, we want to go through Agmar, the quest chain where you get 12 swords.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't know what it's called, but you get 12 swords and you go through a small little instance and you come out, and it's a very cool quest chain. You can only do that once.
Right.
And the only thing you can do is tell somebody about it or make another alt. If that was opened up and, just cash, we get cash out of it or skirmish marks or whatever, that would be very, very cool for them to do. I've seen a couple other games do it. I can't think of this one. I know the Secret World does it where you could just repeat quests. And it's great for like older characters, like max level characters, bringing littler characters in. People that just come into the game to start new, just brand new, and just walk them through some of these quests, and then they can do, it. I'm getting excited talking about it.
I think it's a cool idea. Yeah.
I would love to see them do that.
And now, in hindsight, I wish that they would have been able to, with Helm's Deep, not only brought us epic battles, which I do think are necessary because of the way that the Battle of Helm's Deep was fought.
Yes, I feel the same way, that they needed to be made, that the system had to have been made.
I wish they would have also, instead of having to get it out by a certain time, taken slightly more time and either not done as much on the epic battles from a skill tree perspective and move those resources into developing another instance cluster so they could have released both things simultaneously, or I don't know, or delayed the launch of Helm's Deep so that they would have the resources to be able to come up with an instance cluster. I think we wouldn't be having so many conversations about epic battles and how much people tend to dislike them if there was an instance cluster that dropped at the same time as Helm's Deep.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there might have been with the tying it to the epic, so everybody's got to go through it. Especially since you're going to need to complete that book to go on to the next one.
Yeah, that's true, but then you wouldn't see epic battles as the only end game content to repeat. You could do it once and be done.
Mm-hmm. And then we would have to rely on all of the older instances again, which everybody's tired of running through.
Yeah, I admit there's not a super way to solve it, especially when you're a game that's trying to cater to several different types of players.
Mm-hmm. I think they're really focusing on the casual player. I think they're putting in these other things just because they need to. But I don't know. I'm not Turbine, so.
Right. Well, folks, if you enjoyed this, I just wanted to let you know that this is what I do on Beyond Boss Fights every month. I have a guest or two, and we go through a single topic, and we explore it at some depth and bounce it around. And if you're interested in that, Beyond Boss Fights is out on iTunes, and it's also on Stitcher Radio. So I would appreciate if you gave it a listen. You can get to it from my blog as well, braxwolf.com. There's a little tab for Beyond Boss Fights. And I hope to hear from you. I really enjoy getting feedback on stuff like this from people.
He's really good at it. Brax, were you reading through the chat room at all?
I was glancing over there from time to time.
Okay. I don't know if you just, were looking there or didn't or whatever. So I just wanted to make sure. I see all these really pretty colors going by.
Yeah, I'm having trouble because there's just I can multitask to some extent, but to triple multitask, that takes a lot more brain power.
Yeah, I can't. Every week they'll be asking me questions and I'll just be focused on my notes. Okay. That was a very good conversation, and we should probably wrap up the show. If you are looking for a new PC, then check out doghousesystems.com and use the coupon code MMO Reporter to double your RAM. And you should also go and try out Audible, audibletrial.com not slash, yeah, it is slash, MMO Reporter to get 1 month free trial. Do you guys have anything to say before I cut your mics off?
It's Rorgg.
It's Rorgg.
Rorgg.
There you go.
See, I did that with a warg accent.
You speak.
Rorgg with Warg.
The chat room earlier said that that should be your warg's name, Rorgg.
Well, all of my characters' names have Rorgg in it. So I have Rorgy, Rorgit, Rorgadan, Throrg,
Braxwolf.
Rorgrim.
Yeah.
So when you said if we have anything to say, were you including contact information? Because that is one thing I see the chat room asking for.
Oh yes. Brax, go for it.
Okay, I'll go first then. Yeah. Follow me on Twitter at Braxwolf, BRAXWOLF. My blog is at braxwolf.com, same spelling. You can also see my podcast over there, and it's available, like I said, on iTunes or Stitcher, or you can listen to it right from the blog site post if you don't like either one of those applications. I also write for LOTRO Players, LOTROplayers.com, and appear on LOTRO Players News every Saturday at 8:30 server time. We record live, and it's at LOTROplayers.com/live. Hope to see you in that chat room as well.
Do you have a MySpace page?
You know what? If you Google Braxwolf, the entire first page is just me. So there you go. You're trying
Damn.
it. You're trying it, aren't you? I'm not lying.
Even his Steam account. Rorgg, you have any kind of links or any way to get a hold of you if anybody has questions about your knowledge of LOTRO?
I am on Twitter as at Rorgg, Rorgg. And if you Google me, you get 4 entries about the Queen of the Spider Women in Marvel Comics. But then I come up.
Oh. Intriguing. I like elf chicks, though.
I have one of those, a Rorgg.
Do you have a blog at all?
No.
You should really consider one.
Yeah, since right now I keep putting that stuff in my Elder Request Guild's message board, and nobody seems to really care anymore.
Well, we have a network of blogs, so write one up.
Oh, lots of people are already following me.
Oh, there we go. All right. Our contact information for this show is lotro.reporter@gmail.com. Our Twitter is at LOTRO Reporter. Our Facebook is LOTRO Reporter. That's a lot of LOTRO Reporters. Our voicemail is 616-666-6778. Or you can go to our website and click on the right where our widget is. Click it. It's really lonely. And it likes you. Aww. You can go to our YouTube. I hear typing. You're gonna do it, aren't you?
Sorry.
Don't record while you're on the show. www.youtube.com/users/MMO Reporter Network. Our website, of course, is www.lotroreporter.com. And I say www a lot, don't I? Yeah, I do.
I think you can even lose it. You can even leave it off now most of the time.
Yeah, I know. It's written right there.
But at least he did not call it a backslash, so he's got that going for him.
There you go.
They yelled at me the first 2 shows I did it.
Yeah, I know. I was sitting in my head.
He was yelling at you from the audience.
It's not a backslash. Our Twitch channel is twitch.tv/MMO Reporter. See, I'm learning. Cari's Twitter, if you want to twit her on her birthday while she's at the Irish bar, is at the Cari Mac. TheCarimac. You can twit me at Layanor, Layanor. And I think that's all the contact information that we have.
I'm tweeting Cari.
Oh, Twitter for me too.
Okay.
Tell her she's fired. My turn.
The men have taken control.
It's man talk. All right, guys. Thanks for coming on today.
Thanks for the opportunity. A lot of fun.
Yes.
Okay, we hope you guys enjoyed the show, and if you like the show, download the show multiple times. We like that too. And of course, we'll always see you in game.